In a world where billions make it possible to launch rockets, buy social networks, build private zoos, and reshape entire industries, there are still living creatures over which money does not grant full power. Some are worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Others have no market price at all because they cannot be legally bought, sold, or kept as ordinary exotic property. Their value is formed by rarity, genetics, symbolic status, scientific interest, and the fragility of life itself. These creatures are not simply expensive pets. In some cases, they become diplomatic instruments. In others, biological assets, targets of scientific pursuit, symbols of power, or reminders that true rarity is not always placed on an auction block. The more unique an animal is, the more often ownership becomes impossible or almost meaningless. It must be protected, studied, or left in the wild rather than bought. The blue lobster looks as if its shell is glowing from within. It is not radioactive, and it does not possess any mystical glow, but its deep cobalt color seems almost impossible for a living creature. This is a rare genetic mutation that changes the structure of proteins in the shell. As a result, an ordinary marine animal becomes a creature resembling polished sapphire. Such a lobster is found approximately once in every 2 million catches. For scientists, it is a biological wonder. For fishermen, a true stroke of luck. In theory, the value of such a specimen can be estimated at around $500,000. But the paradox is that a blue lobster almost never becomes private property. Usually, stories of such discoveries end in the same way. Conservation organizations intervene, and the lobster is sent to a public aquarium. There, it lives not as someone's pet, but as a museum exhibit protected behind glass. Its value is not commercial, but symbolic. In most countries, any attempt to use such an animal as an object of trade or profit would be sharply condemned by the conservation community. That is precisely why the blue lobster is so compelling. It may be worth an enormous amount of money, but it cannot simply be bought, exchanged, or displayed as a luxurious rarity. In a world where wealthy people can clone dogs, buy tigers, and build private animal collections, a creature that is formally priceless and yet inaccessible becomes even more desirable. It is a jewel with a heartbeat, a status symbol that cannot be worn and cannot be owned without consequences. An albino alligator seems carved from polished ivory stone. Its white skin and pinkish eyes create the impression of a ghostly creature drifting through dark water. But behind this beauty lies genetic vulnerability. Such an alligator appears roughly once in every million ordinary relatives, and surviving is far harder for it than for an ordinary predator. White skin makes it almost defenseless against the sun. It cannot calmly bask under southern rays like other alligators. Its body burns easily. What looks like luxury is, in reality, a constant risk. Biologists track only about 100 such individuals worldwide, and each of them is a living contradiction, an apex predator forced to hide from daylight. On the exotic animal market, the value of such an alligator can be enormous. A hatchling with verified lineage may be valued at around $120,000, while an adult specimen longer than 2 meters can cost around $200,000. But the purchase is only the beginning of the expenses. Keeping an albino alligator requires complex infrastructure. It needs climate control, special panels with ultraviolet protection, backup cooling systems to keep the water at approximately 22 degrees, LED lighting that imitates a dusk cycle, constant feeding, and veterinary supervision. Individual elements of such a setup alone can cost tens of thousands of dollars, while annual care and feeding expenses add even more substantial sums. Security must also be added to this. Insurance companies may value a single alligator of this kind at around $150,000, but payouts are possible only if the habitat has biometric locks, motion sensors, and on-site staff. One power failure, one crack in an acrylic wall, one system error, and the rarity may die or escape. That is why owning an albino alligator quickly turns not into a demonstration of luxury, but into constant service to its vulnerability. The rarer it is, the more it dictates conditions to its owner. It cannot simply be shown off as a symbol of strength. One must negotiate with it through shade, cold, silence, and endless environmental control so that the white predator can live another day. The queen honeybee weighs less than a paperclip, but her influence is far greater than her size. She is not merely an insect, but the center of an entire biological system. She commands tens of thousands of worker bees and sustains the existence of the colony. In an ordinary hive, her role is important, but in elite breeding, she becomes a true genetic asset. A queen from a high-quality breeding line can be worth up to $10,000 for her lineage. Her value is determined not by what she produces directly, but by what she initiates and maintains. High fertility, disease resistance, and pollination efficiency can influence the productivity of entire regions. Through a single queen, it is possible to indirectly affect almond harvests in California, apples in China, and many other crops. Modern beekeeping has long turned queen breeding into precise genetic work. Artificial insemination, methods of which were developed by agricultural laboratories in Europe and North America, makes it possible to select desirable traits and pass them on. Valuable queens are exported around the world under strict biosecurity and temperature control. Each may be transported in its own ventilated capsule. A single shipment of breeder queens from a leading apiary can cost more than $100,000. Rights to such lines are protected almost as strictly as the pedigrees of racehorses or elite dogs. But the queen's life is short. Her reign lasts only as long as she actively lays eggs, usually from 2 to 5 years. One virus, one sharp climate shift, or one mistaken care and the colony may collapse. Elite queens are often replaced annually to preserve maximum productivity. This is not luxury for display, but biological infrastructure. The queen does not roar, does not impress by size, and does not look like a symbol of wealth. But in an economy built on food and pollination, she remains one of the smallest and most underestimated forces of wealth on Earth. A poison dart frog can fit on the tip of a finger and still be one of the deadliest animals on the planet. Its power lies not in size, but in its skin. In the wild, it is coated with batrachotoxins, substances capable of disrupting the nervous system. One such organism can contain about 1 milligram of an alkaloid compound, whose market value is estimated at approximately $5,000 per gram. These frogs are not bought for ordinary terrariums. They interest military laboratories, pharmaceutical research, and biotechnology patents. Their toxins do not simply burn or paralyze, they interfere with cellular communication itself. Nerve signals stop functioning, and the heart stops beating. But within this danger lies immense scientific potential. One small sample could help create new non-addictive painkillers or next-generation anesthetics. That is why scientific institutions are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars for individual specimens collected under strict government supervision in remote tropical forests. But poison dart frogs have a trait that makes true ownership of them almost impossible. In captivity, they lose their toxicity. Without their native diet, specific ants and mites found in the Amazon, their chemical weapon disappears. Breeding them on an industrial scale is impossible. Keeping such a frog without its ecosystem is like holding a weapon without ammunition. Their value is built not only on rarity, but also on dependence on their environment. Their power cannot be extracted without affecting the world that created it. Collectors may offer millions for especially rare color variants, while smugglers try to transport live frogs in containers, socks, and other hiding places, risking large fines for each specimen. But the most expensive element here is not the frog itself. The most valuable thing is what cannot be restored if its world disappears. The white Arabian horse does not simply gallop, it seems to glide. Its high-held head, flared nostrils, smooth gait, and almost sculptural beauty make it a living symbol of power, purity, and prestige. For more than 2,000 years, this breed has preserved a special status, especially in the Middle East, where a purebred white Arabian stallion means not only beauty, but heritage. The roots of these horses go back to Bedouin tribes of the desert. Their lineage was decisive. One mistake in the bloodline could devalue generations. Today, the most elite white Arabian horses are sold not merely through open auctions, but by invitation. A show-class stallion with championship lineage can cost up to $3 million, while outstanding mares with proven fertility and ideal conformation may be leased for breeding at around $250,000 per cycle. The main value here is not always the animal itself, but the genetics. In this world, ownership matters less than access. Wealthy buyers and royal families invest in genetic rights contracts that allow limited breeding from a specific line. Such agreements are often confirmed by DNA testing and international regulations. Frozen semen from winning studs can cost more than $150,000 per dose and be stored in cryogenic banks like biological treasure. The horses themselves rarely see ordinary dirt. They live in stables with marble floors, receive carefully calculated feed, travel in climate-controlled trailers, and have their manes and hooves groomed as if they were precious objects. But behind the external luxury stands science. The Arabian horse is one of those breeds whose beauty is literally embedded in its genetics. An arched neck, a concave profile, a flawless gait. Its DNA is tracked, registered, and insured almost like a work of art. This is not simply an animal, but inheritance in motion, a bloodline transformed into muscle, grace, and multi-million-dollar value. The Tibetan mastiff does not so much bark as thunder. In morning fog, it looks less like an ordinary dog and more like a moving bonfire of fur. Its amber eyes peer out from beneath a thick mane comparable to a lion's. Once, these giants guarded Himalayan monasteries and Silk Road caravans. Today, they guard something else status. In the mid-2010s, China experienced a true craze for Tibetan mastiffs. For the newly wealthy, owning a purebred red male from nomadic bloodlines meant that the owner's fortune had reached an 8-figure level. The height of the frenzy came in 2014, when a property developer paid $1,900,000 for a single puppy at a luxury pet exhibition in Zhejiang. The price exceeded that of a Rolls-Royce Phantom, and the press called the deal the sale of the most expensive dog in history. In their best years, top-level puppies cost from $800,000 to $2 million. But the expenses do not end with the purchase. An adult Tibetan Mastiff can weigh up to 90 kilograms and eat like a small tiger. A premium raw diet, veterinary specialists, and climate-controlled kennels can add around $40,000 per year. Care for the legendary coat oils, undercoat stripping, imported shampoos requires thousands more annually. Many owners hire dedicated handlers, turning the dog into a mobile luxury item complete with SUVs, drivers, and security. But the market proved as unstable as speculative assets. Government measures against ostentatious wealth and new restrictions on large breeds cooled demand almost overnight. Prices for mastiffs without champion status collapsed below $10,000, leaving some breeders with kennels full of dogs that had recently been valued at 6-figure sums. And yet, certain imperial red mastiffs remain priceless to collectors. To them, these are living relics, breathing sculptures of primal power. In closed residences near Beijing and in Dubai, such dogs still walk across marble courtyards, and their deep growl is worth more in social currency than many numbers on a price tag. The golden tiger moves like fire and looks like myth. It is also called the strawberry tiger, but it is not a separate species. It is a rare genetic variation of the Bengal tiger. Its fur is colored in shades of honey, apricot, and cream, as if painted by hand. Yet this predator is not a product of the wild, but the result of precise, selective breeding. About 30 golden tigers are known in the world, most of them born in captivity through controlled breeding, in which recessive genes are matched to reproduce the golden coloration. This rarity alone raises the estimated value of such an animal to around $250,000. But for collectors and owners of exotic zoos, the price is only part of the appeal. What they are really buying is visual dominance, a living symbol of power, exclusivity, and control over rarity. In private collections in the Middle East, China, and the United States, such tigers are kept behind reinforced glass and biometric locks. Keeping them requires permits, exotic animal licenses, handlers, veterinarians, and constant security. Annual expenses can easily exceed $50,000 when diet, specialized environment, and international insurance are included. But the beauty of the golden tiger carries an ethical cost. Critics condemn the breeding practices used to produce the rare coloration. Selective inbreeding reduces genetic diversity and increases vulnerability to disease. Some golden tigers are born with deformities or weakened immune systems, which are then hidden behind carefully chosen photographs and luxurious enclosures. Nevertheless, the interest does not disappear. In the closed world of private collections, the golden tiger exists less as an animal than as a spectacle. It is rarity transformed into a demonstration of power, a trophy that breathes, roars, and reminds us that even nature's fiercest predator can be rewritten in golden tones if the price is high enough. The giant panda eats bamboo, waddles clumsily, and inspires affection around the world. But behind this image lies not simply a rare animal, but a living political asset. China uses pandas as symbols of diplomacy, influence, and control. A panda cannot be bought, not even with a blank check. Every giant panda outside China is not owned by another country, but leased. Through so-called panda diplomacy, the Chinese government transfers pairs of pandas to selected states for periods of roughly 10 to 15 years. Contracts include strict conditions for breeding, return, and financial obligations. The cost of such agreements can reach from $30 to $50 million depending on the duration and conservation terms. But paperwork is only the beginning. Hosting a panda requires the construction of specialized enclosures with climate control, dedicated veterinary services, and round-the-clock security. The annual cost of maintaining one panda ranges from $1 to $2 million. If a cub is born abroad, China charges a separate fee that can amount to around $500,000. Even the bamboo sometimes has to be delivered fresh from specific regions so that the diet matches the animal's habits. In return, the host country receives not simply a rare animal, but a diplomatic bridge. Pandas have opened embassies, softened trade relations, and become symbols of warming ties during periods of international tension. When two pandas arrive in a new country, they carry not only fur and charm, but political meaning. They appear alongside presidents, ministers, and diplomats, becoming part of foreign policy. Their softness is a mask. Behind the popularity of pandas lies a geopolitical instrument. If relations deteriorate, the animals may be recalled even before the agreement expires. Pandas are not pets, but pieces on the international board, controlled, tracked, and used by the state with the precision of a financial instrument. To the public, a panda is adorable. To governments, it is an investment. To China, it is an ambassador in fur whose true value is measured not in smiles, but in strategy. In the upper part of the Gulf of California, off the coast of Mexico, fishermen speak of a creature that is almost impossible to see. A silver fin. A short breath of mist and emptiness again. This is the vaquita, the rarest marine mammal species on the planet. Fewer than 10 individuals remain alive, and biologists track them not with cameras, but with underwater microphones. No aquarium has ever displayed a vaquita. In 2017, the emergency rescue program Vaquita CPR spent around $4 million trying to capture at least one female. The animal panicked, stopped breathing, and died within hours. The program was halted immediately. It turned out that captivity is a death sentence for the vaquita. At the same time, the vaquita's fate is surrounded by enormous amounts of money. Its disappearance has become collateral damage from the illegal fishing of totoaba. The dried swim bladders of totoaba are sold on the Chinese black market for up to $50,000 per kilogram. This business is guarded by armed groups, while conservation vessels patrol the area with drones. Every vaquita entangled in nets is formally worth nothing and simultaneously priceless, because replacing even one individual is biologically impossible. Governments have already invested more than $100 million in patrols, compensation programs, and the development of net-free fishing gear. But the price of extinction rises with every season. Losing the last vaquita would mean the disappearance of an entire genetic branch. One can buy blue diamonds, golden tigers, or mastiffs for millions, but the vaquita remains beyond the reach of any safe, villa, or private collection. It reminds us that true rarity does not always have an auction house. Sometimes it has only a countdown. The most expensive animals on Earth reveal a strange pattern. The greater the rarity, the weaker the ordinary logic of purchase becomes. The blue lobster is valuable precisely because it is better not to sell it. The albino alligator requires not luxury, but constant technical care. The queen bee controls the economy of harvests while remaining almost invisible. The poison dart frog loses its main power outside its native ecosystem. The white Arabian horse becomes not so much an animal as genetic heritage. The panda turns into a diplomatic instrument. The vaquita moves beyond price altogether because its disappearance cannot be compensated. In a world where money can build rockets, buy islands, and reshape cities, some lives remain inaccessible. These creatures are not luxury objects, but living myths, biological relics, and symbols of a planet far older than human wealth. Dogs can be cloned, pandas leased, and horse bloodlines rewritten, but an extinct species cannot be bought back. From golden predators to white-skinned ghosts of nature, from the tiny queen of a hive to the nearly vanished vaquita, the most expensive animals in the world reveal a simple truth. The rarest forms of life cannot truly be possessed. They can only be preserved or lost forever, and they are completely indifferent to how rich the person trying to call them their own may be.